I'm waiting for a real, in-depth, 60 to 100 hour character-driven RPG in the Fast and the Fury verse.
Mm-hmm.
That will be
Say
amazing.
that again?
The Fast and the Fury verse.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what people use. I'm using that term. I've coined it, trademark. Fast and Fury verse.
Welcome, guys, to another Best Game, Worst Game. Rob, thank you for joining me again. Today's topic is one that I feel like most people have a lot to say on, which is movie adaptations. So not video games turned into movies, movies turned into video games. And I think we kind of established that the rule has to be, it has to be an actual direct connection or remake of a movie in video game form. It can't just be like any Star Wars game can count because it's Star Wars. Let's start with our worst.
Worst?
Do you want to go first?
Start with the worst? Okay, I had actually a harder time picking a good worst than a best. I guess I'm just an optimist. But the worst game that I picked from games I've personally played has to be Total Recall for the NES, which is based on the movie Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger, which was then, of course, later remade with what's-his-face, the guy, The guy. Colin Farrell.
Phone booth guy. Yeah.
Phone booth guy. That's what you know him from. Phone booth. Okay.
Yeah.
This game was terrible. Here's the thing. The movie I remember liking a lot. I remember the game being next to impossible. Granted, I was a small child at the time, but it was next to impossible. And just from the very beginning, you'd the whole beginning is you're just walking on the streets to go to your apartment. And I don't remember this from the movie, but apparently every other alley you walk past, you get grabbed by like a hobo junkie who tries to fight you in the alley.
Yeah.
And it's like the darkest, scariest alley, even though it's daytime. It made me like the movie a lot less than I think I originally did as a result. And I just can't get the memory out of my mind of the airport scene where you have to go through security and you get attacked. And you're basically going through this long X-ray scanner, so your character turns into a skeleton, and all these guards are fighting you, and these drones are fighting you. And I mean, granted, this was made in the 90s or late 80s, but flying to Florida the other week, I feel like they were ahead of their game. By which I mean I had to fight people at the airport.
Yeah, right. Super funny because that was actually going to be my worst.
What?
Yes, that was 100% going to be my worst.
So it's an awful game.
I kept thinking, first of all, the way that they make Arnold is he's just, a pseudo Arnold looking character in this purplish shirt.
Super rigid.
Arnold. He does these crazy. Do you remember he does these weird acrobatic moves?
Punch, kicks, jumps.
Which he does not do at all in the movie, by the way. I love that movie.
No. Yeah.
Also, you kill dogs for no apparent reason. There are moments in the game. Do you remember that? Kill dogs.
Just killing dogs?
No apparent.
Was this on Mars? Here's the thing. Until we got a game Genie, I never got past the third level of the game, which was years.
I thought of another one.
Okay.
And that would be Who Framed Roger Rabbit on the NES.
Man.
I equally love this game in terms of nostalgia. That's why I love it, because I had it and I remember playing it as a kid, and I freaking hate this game because it was so impossible. So you obviously play Eddie Valiant and you're running around. You start off in the regular town. You do eventually get to Toontown, though it's freaking hard to do so. And the weasels show up every once in a while and they're chasing you around in their car. And
yeah, they just want to run you down.
Yeah, and then if they catch up to you when you're in a building, you have to answer jokes correctly, because you know how it's if you make them laugh, they die in the movie.
Right. Okay.
Stop laughing. But for some reason, it was never clear the controls of how to go through the answers and select the right one. So you would be hitting all these buttons, what the heck am I supposed to do? And then you would always hit the wrong answer, and then you just get punched in the face, and that was it. There was always these dumb things pots falling on your head and whatever, and because the controls are so poor, you couldn't really avoid it. It just, none of it really made a lot of sense. They try to tie it to the movie, but there really wasn't much of a story there at all. It's just get Roger Rabbit to Toontown. It's just a really poorly just done game.
Before we get into best, I just like looking like after I picked mine, I looked at a list to see if I had forgotten anything, and it's just amazing how much more in, you know, the NES, SNES, Genesis era there were these adaptations than now when, you know, the development cycle's so much longer. It's just insane how many of them there are.
Yeah.
I went with a very surprising, great game. Best, I mean, it's a stretch, depends on how you define these video game adaptations, but mine would have to be X-Men Origins Wolverine for the 360 and I think the PS3.
Interesting. I don't think
based on the really bad movie with Hugh Jackman. And here's the thing, and it almost feels like cheating, because the story behind this game and why it's so good for movie adaptation is that the company, the developer working on the game, was originally just designing a Wolverine game. Like, they were years into development of just a plain, unaffiliated Wolverine game. And then Marvel came to them and was like, hey, we're putting out this X-Men Origins Wolverine movie. And so like, oh, well, now we'll just take what we have and like tie it into the movie. And so it became an adaptation, but like already had like a really solid framework for a game behind it. And I mean, you played as Wolverine. It's very interesting. You could tell that that's the path it took because it would cut between scenes where half of the game was based directly on the movie itself, and then half of it was sort of this weird extra story that took place at another point. And what was really cool was, you know, everybody who knows Wolverine knows that his power isn't just his claws, but he has regenerative health. Right. So rather than just a health bar that went down, you were physically getting damage. Your clothes would get shredded, your skin would get shredded. You could get to a point where you were just a skeleton fighting, and then over time it would regenerate back. And it was crazy. The coolest thing ever. It was hyper violent, like Wolverine is. You know, it wasn't very replayable because it was just a linear single player game. But like for a movie based on a game, it was a really solid buy. Like, I would still suggest, even for people who haven't seen the movie, like if you have a 360, you want to spend a weekend playing a game, go pick it up. It was a really fun game.
So my best would be, and maybe, I don't know if this is the obvious one that you were thinking of, GoldenEye.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is I think that people forget sometimes that it's based on a movie. Not that people forgot about the movie. But I think that the game
they think of multiplayer.
Sure, and I think that the game has stood on its own so well that you don't even need to like mentally tie it back to that anymore. It's kind of its own thing. But taking out just the multiplayer, which obviously was awesome and I spent countless hours on, but when I look at the single player, it travels the narrative of the movie to a T.
Yep.
Like, just everything from like the scene where he goes down to the bathroom with the guy in the, you know, the stall, and you get to do that, and then the whole scene with the dam in the beginning, and like everything is literally every scene.
You're playing in the movie.
And sometimes you would think like a lot of games that do that, it doesn't always come off very well, but I feel like they managed to make every scene and every aspect of the movie super fun. I still think, oddly enough, that stands the test of time. Like, it's still a fun game to play. And unfortunately, all of the 007 games that have come out after really sucked. Whether based on a movie or an offshoot.
One good one or something? World is Not Enough for... I don't know. I never played the other ones. I didn't even bother.
You don't need to. GoldenEye's all you need.
Yeah, no, it was a great game. You know, I avoided it because I figured I knew you were gonna pick it, or somebody would pick it, or it'd just be the obvious choice. But yeah, it definitely has created a lot of great memories. Yeah. It's a good game. I want to also throw in honorable mentions to Mad Max, which isn't directly based on a movie, unless you were to say it's sort of directly based on the older movies. It was really good. And Spider-Man 2 for the PS2 was like open world, swinging around Manhattan, like it was great. It was fantastic. And there are apparently rumors that they're going to be making a Spider-Man open world game for the PS4, which I'm excited for.
Especially if I can travel around Queens. Well, I have an honorable bad mention, Batman Returns. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not even just Batman Returns. So bad. So bad.
Watchmen had a really bad adaptation as well, which is just, considering the comics considered like a work of art, it's especially offensive.
Disappointing. Yeah. Thanks again for watching another video. Thank you, Rob, for being involved in another Best Game, Worst Game. Thanks again, and have a great rest of the day. Bye.
Bye.